This is Garis, Masculist, MGTOW flyers. That is 2 3-page essays on the themes of masculism and MGTOW, written by and read aloud by Prof. Dr. Hugo de Garis. This is flyer number 278, entitled Experience with Minds.com as the preferred MGTOW/Masculist video hosting company. Description. This flyer provides pros and cons of using Minds.com as the preferred video hosting company for the MGTOW/Masculist communities, and argues why, despite its claim to offer freedom of speech, such a reality can only be temporary before the Jewish Illuminati inevitably take it over. Flyer itself. Experience with Minds.com as the preferred MGTOW/Masculist video hosting company by Prof. Dr. Hugo de Garis. Email profhugodegaris@yahoo.com. Website profhugodegaris.wordpress.com. This flyer relates my experiences using Minds.com as the preferred MGTOW/Masculist video hosting company. It gives the pros and cons of Minds.com and makes some comments and recommendations. It's obvious to most MGTOWs and Masculists that YouTube is no longer the MGTOW/Masculist video hosting company of preference, because YouTube censors, demonetizes, desubscribes, etc. our videos. So we need to migrate to another hosting company. My preference is for Minds.com, that I recommend to other MGTOW/Masculists for the following reasons. The main reason is that Minds.com advertises explicitly that it offers freedom of speech. On its front page, in large letters, it broadcasts, quote, "Take back your internet freedom." You can't be more explicit than that. So it's likely that Minds.com will overtake YouTube as the video hosting company of preference for those social/political groups whose opinions are being censored by JewTube. The next big plus from my own experience is that as a result of Minds.com not censoring the content of MGTOWs/Masculists, the hit count on my de Garis Masculist MGTOW flyers videos is about 5 times greater on Minds.com than it is on YouTube. So I'm currently uploading my nearly 300 Masculist/MGTOW videos to Minds.com, which brings me to one of the negative features of Minds.com, because not everything with Minds.com is wine and roses. There are some downsides as well compared to YouTube. My biggest frustration with Minds.com is the fact that it's still in beta test mode. Its software is not yet mature, with all the bugs ironed out, with all the features supplied to adequately cater to users' needs. YouTube software, on the other hand, is superb. It's polished, mature, user-friendly, and very effective. Minds.com's software has major features still missing that need to be added before it can be described as being mature. For example, when I try to upload a video to Minds.com, the upload speed is often painfully slow, which increases the risk that my VPN connection from China to Minds.com is broken. If that happens when I'm uploading to YouTube, then when I re-upload, the uploading recommences at the point of interruption, not from scratch. Whereas with Minds.com, it recommences from scratch, which is maddening and a huge waste of time. I've emailed Minds.com to work on this problem, which to my mind is their biggest. I suppose because Minds is such a small smaller organization than the giant YouTube, that Minds.com has less computer resources, so their upload speeds are much lower, and they don't yet store a partial upload to overcome the above problem, checking that an upload has not been partially uploaded in the past, and if it has, to then recommence the uploading from the point of interruption. Despite the above objections, on balance, I've decided to use Minds.com because of their freedom of speech. I've heard an hour-long interview of Minds.com's CEO, Bill Ottman, O-T-T-M-A-N, on the internet, and he seems generally honest about his desire to offer freedom of speech. My huge question about him is he Jewish? I ask this obvious and critical question because to anyone informed about the Jewish Illuminati and their dictatorship of the US and increasingly the world, the Jewish Illuminati cannot allow a video hosting company to have true freedom of speech. Because if they do, then Minds.com will outgrow YouTube because everyone will want to migrate to a video hosting platform that allows them freedom of speech. Such a free speech platform then becomes extremely dangerous to the Jewish elite, because if there are millions of people like me who have educated themselves about the massive crimes against humanity committed by the Jewish banksters and their Illuminati, will learn a powerful hatred against them and push to see them sent to The Hague to be prosecuted for their massive crimes against humanity and see them executed for those crimes. The Jewish banksters, particularly the Rothschilds, or in German Rothschild, which means red shield, who are behind the Illuminati, are the greatest criminals against humanity in history. They are indirectly responsible for the deaths of over 200 million people last century. They were the principals in the engineering of the two world wars. They caused the Great Depression. They committed the greatest Holocaust in history, that is the 66 million white Christian Russians in the Russian Revolution, murdered by the Jewish communists, funded by Schiff, the New York Jewish bankster, to rob the Tsar's gold, which he succeeded in doing. The Jewish banksters have debt enslaved and are destroying whole continents, the US, Europe, Japan, with their paper fiat currency, debt note, Ponzi schemes. They have destroyed democracies by having control of the central banks and printing money out of thin air to bribe the politicians to do what the banksters want. They have assassinated 6 US presidents, 4 successfully, 2 almost, when these presidents threaten to strip these Jewish banksters of their power to create money. They inflate the currency, destroying people's savings. They impose hate speech laws designed to suppress criticism of them by people like me. They sponsor groups to generate divide and conquer strategies, for example, to cause friction between blacks and whites, between WASPs and other cultures, between men and women, to distract people's attention from being robbed of half of their federal taxes that go straight into the pockets of these Jewish banksters, etc. The Fed, the IRS, the ADL and the FBI were all set up by the Rothschilds in the same year in the US. The Jewish elite own the sources of ideas given to the public, that is, Hollywood, the news distribution services, for example, Reuters, AP, etc., the 6 major news companies in the US, the media networks, publishing, so are able to control people's minds. Anyone, including ordinary Jews, in brackets, who, by the way, were pushed out of Germany by a Jewish Zionist-funded Hitler, who was shipping large numbers of Jews to Palestine under the Nazi flag via the transfer or Havara agreement, in brackets, who is informed of these massive crimes against humanity, learns a hatred of the Jewish banksters. These Jewish banksters abused ordinary Jews as much as they did the Goy. They funded Hitler to push Jews out of Germany to Palestine, that they owned, to fulfill their dream of ruling the earth with their capital in Jerusalem. If there were millions of us, like me, who have a real hatred for these Jewish banksters and their massive crimes against humanity, then there would be an American pogrom. These Jewish bankster vermin would be sent to The Hague, that is, the International Criminal Court, or simply butchered. The Jewish banksters know this, so they have no choice but to control those outlets which offer the public freedom of speech. A few years ago, I was as much a goy baby as anyone else, that is, being so brainwashed by a Jewish-controlled media elite that I believed it was taboo to criticize Jews, which from hindsight I now see as being as silly as a taboo to criticize Albanians. A few years ago, thanks to the internet, I learned of the massive crimes committed against humanity by these hated Jewish banksters and their cronies. If video hosting sites remain on the internet, which can do to millions what they did to me, then it's only a question of time before these Jewish bankster vermin are murdered or executed legally. Their crimes against humanity are so massive they deserve to die. So, in light of all the above, I see the takeover of Minds.com by the Jewish Illuminati as inevitable. There are two ways this can be done. Either Ottman, that's the CEO of Minds, either Ottman is not a Jew, or in parentheses, or is a Jew but is not a member of the Jewish Illuminati, then he will be bought out by the Illuminati. Or he is a Jew and is playing a puppet role by the Illuminati, that is, pretending to offer freedom of speech initially and will later turn his coat. YouTube used to offer freedom of speech and was then bought by Jewish-controlled Google. Google is a prominent member of the CFR, Council on Foreign Relations, the real shadow government of the US, with the Jewish banksters pulling the strings. So for the next few years, if Ottman is not a Jew, or even if he is and is not yet under the control of the Jewish Illuminati, I will give him the benefit of the doubt. I will finish uploading all my Masculism/MGTOW videos, nearly 300 at current count, to Minds.com and benefit from the temporary few years of freedom of speech that Minds.com offers. If Minds.com does get bought by the Illuminati, or Ottman himself turns into a Jewish Illuminati figure himself, then I will curse him and create a mirror site of my Masculism/MGTOW videos on some other platform. Since there are so many people around the world who demand freedom of speech, there's obviously a market for such video hosting sites. So there will be new platform companies popping up all the time. If one of them gets Jewed by the Illuminati and blocks their freedom of speech, then users who demand freedom of speech will punish these censoring video hosters and copy their videos to another hosting site that does offer freedom of speech. So for the moment, Ottman's Minds.com appears to offer freedom of speech, so I'll continue to use it to benefit from its freedom of speech, and as a result of that, get a 5 times, roughly, greater hit rate, which is nice. Minds.com is still in beta test phase, so it will keep improving. It will implement the recommendations I made, and its service to users will become mature and polished in time. This is to be expected. Once that happens, it's then likely there will be a stampede of users to Minds.com, as people fed up with YouTube censorship will prefer Minds.com. As part of this stampede, this going viral, I recommend to members of the MGTOW/Masculist movements to upload their videos to Minds.com to establish it as the video hostage company of preference for the MGTOW/Masculist movements. Cheers. Prof. Dr. Hugo de Garis. Website profhugodegaris.wordpress.com. YouTube channels De Garis, Masculist, MGTOW, Flyers, and De Garis Essays. Patreon, patreon.com/profhugodegaris. That's all one word. Minds.com/profhugodegaris.